This is the higher sample assessment material for the chemistry exam. So this question's quite nice and easy. Okay, they tell you that sulfur dioxide plus oxygen makes sulfur trioxide, so you've got 2 marks for just writing SO2, dioxide, 2 oxygens plus O2 gives you sulfur trioxide. Okay, putting 2's in front was a little bit harder. Then to find the percentage increase in yield, so it was 83, take away 58 would have given you 25. 1 molecule of sulfur trioxide reacts with 1 molecule of sulfuric acid, so sulfur trioxide, sulfur plus 3 oxygens, plus H2SO4 would give you oleum H2S2O7. What would happen when you added concentrated sulfuric acid to blue hydrated copper sulfate? It would colour change, it would go from blue to white, it would go from a solid crystal to a powder. The reason for this is that H2SO4 is a dehydrating agent. It would have taken, it's hydrated there, take any water out of the copper sulfate. Nice easy question here, do an ionic bonding, the transfer of electrons, so they're both going to transfer over to the oxygen. You're going to end up then with 2, 8 and minus 2 because it's gained 2 electrons. These then are going to become 2, 8 again because they've lost an electron each, and they're both going to be positive. This then is a covalent bond, nice easy. You can see the areas where the hydrogens will bond there because they're sharing electrons, they're both non-metal. Loads and loads of information here, and ask you to pick from the substances A, B, C or D which one is not listed up here. It's C because none of these are just a good electrical conductor. Okay, ionic bonds can conduct electricity when molten or dissolved, but not all the time. Then it asks you to explain free electrons, stuff like that. The bonding in metals. So metals have free electrons, which are good conductors of electricity and heat. They also have layers which can slide, making them malleable and ductile. So here is like the information then about grapes and how they can be used to make alcoholic drinks. During fermentation, frothy bubbles form. Why does this happen? Bubbles form because a gas called carbon dioxide is produced. Then it says, where do the carbon atoms that are present in carbon dioxide and alcohol come from? Some carbon atoms come from the sugars. Some carbon atoms come from the yeast. No, because the yeast is catalyst, it will not be used up. Some carbon atoms come from solution. No. Okay. Then again, this kind of question comes up quite a lot, explaining what was happening in each one. Okay, so number 1, the mass would stay the same as ethanol and carbon dioxide are formed, and it's got a bung. So no gas can escape. Number 2 then, no reactions, no yeast, so balance stays the same. Number 3, there'll be decrease in mass because there's no bung, so the CO2 will leave the container once formed. Then looking at this, talking again, a lot of information you've got to read, and it's talking about these pits in Anglesey. Okay, once you've read through the information, it's explaining displacement. The more reactive element. So displacement, the more reactive element will displace the less reactive element. The copper sulfate plus iron. Iron is more reactive, so you'll end up with iron sulfate plus copper. A similar reaction takes place between copper and silver nitrate. Copper, again, is more reactive than silver. Big thing with this is making sure that we get the symbols and using our table of ions. So we've got plus 3 minus CO2 plus. Okay, so especially with this one, and I'll do this one for you in terms of a top swap drop. Okay, so Cu top, NO3 1. And then we would swap them over and then drop them down. Okay, because there's more than one element in that ion, you need to put a little charge by there. Okay. Then you're looking for anomalies, so circle an anomaly, it's that one there, completely out. Use the information in the table, describe the relationship between the mass of magnesium added and the mass of copper formed. An increase in the mass of magnesium equals an increase in the mass of copper. Using the information in the table, state whether the evidence supporting his conclusion is strong or weak. Strong, numeral repeats, they're exactly the same. The mean value calculated lower than the theoretical value suggests 2 possible reasons for this. Not mixed properly doesn't always react, or not filtered properly. Use the information, theoretical mass of copper deposited is mass of 0.35 of the mass of magnesium added. Give a reason for your answer is 0.96. It increases by 0.14 each time, so you can just carry on adding 0.14. If you go back to the previous section, you can see I've done it on the table. pair of compounds. A and C are alkanes because they haven't got a double bond. B and D are alcohols, okay, because they've got the OH coming off them. General formula then, so CnH2n plus 2, CnH2n plus 1 plus OH. Describe a chemical test that we carried out to distinguish between compounds C and E. Bromine water. C would go from orange to no change, and E, because it's got the double bond, would go from orange to colourless. Give the meaning of the term isomer, same molecular formula, different structural formula. Give another structural formula of C4H10. So instead of having 4 in a long chain, do 3 in a long chain with a methyl group coming off. Identify another one that's compound is an isomer. Other than C, I did D because I can move the OH to make it propan 2-ol. Calculate the concentration of sodium hydroxide solution in moles per decimeter cubed. So the first thing I'm going to have to do is work out the number of moles. So I have to do 2.4, which is the mass, divided by 40, which is the MR, which will give me 0.6. I can then do moles divided by volume. Okay, there's the volume. Make sure you divide that by 1,000 first. So then that would be 0.06 divided by 0.25, which will give me 0.24 moles. There's an awful lot going on there for 2 marks. Then it says explain why Barrett is used to accurately add acid, easy to measure, to 1 decimal place how much acid is added. Use the results of the titration to calculate the concentration of dilute sulfuric acid in moles per decimeter cubed. So the first thing I did was work out the mean volume. I took out number 1 because I felt that it was too far and it was anomalous, so I did the 3 divided by 3 would give me 16 centimeters cubed. Okay, you're in a ratio of 1 to 2 if you look at the previous slide in terms of the equation. So then you can do 0.24 divided by 2 would give you 0.212 moles. Okay, you can then do moles divided by volume to give you a concentration.